Chris Brown is a controversial figure for many reasons, but today we're not going to be talking about his terrible actions or his past. We're going to be talking about his artistry. And the reason I bring this up is because I've been seeing a ton of conversations about it on Twitter, and I just feel like a lot of these conversations make absolutely no sense. People tend to overestimate his artistry and influence for whatever reason. Now, I will say Chris Brown is definitely talented. I would never take that away from him, and he's definitely influential, particularly to these younger male R&B singers that are coming up. He is a pop R&B icon for better or for worse. He's an exceptional dancer, he's a good singer, and an okay actor. He's a jack of all trades, but a master of none. And that's the exact reason why he shouldn't be put into a conversation with Beyoncé and Michael Jackson. Whether it be their albums or showmanship, they're a master of something within their respective fields. Chris is not. Let me break this down for you. I can see where people draw this comparison, particularly with Michael Jackson. They both started out relatively young, good boy images, good dancing and singing skills, and troubled adulthoods. I would even go as far to say it does make a tiny bit of sense. I could have seen Chris Brown potentially growing into a more respectable light, particularly at the beginning of his career. But instead, he did some terrible things and immediately reinvented his image, and went in for a bad boy and hip-hop influenced persona. But with that being said, when separating Michael Jackson and Chris Brown's cultural importance, sales, impact, and legacy, the comparison makes absolutely no sense, and it is a bit insulting to Michael. Michael has various important attributions credited to him that help shape the music industry, like breaking down tons of barriers for Black artists, revolutionizing the music video, and helping pave the way for modern-day pop music. His influence has also reached outside of music, from dancing to fashion to philanthropy. And Chris Brown, well, Chris Brown has scandals that outweigh his artistry. And you're probably thinking honest, Michael had scandals that overshadowed his artistry at a point in his career as well. Yes, he did. However, that was at a point where his career was already going on a bit of a decline. Michael's influence was already set in stone. No matter how you feel about Michael or even his controversies, I feel like he's done way too much for the music industry in general to ever be compared to someone like Chris Brown. Michael Jackson has the best-selling album of all time. Let that sink in. He's still regarded as the greatest entertainer to ever live, and was notorious for making groundbreaking and cutting-edge albums at the height of his career. Chris Brown has no thriller, he has no bad or off the wall. He doesn't have one body of work that is substantive enough to even sustain that type of legacy or impact. Sure, he has some decent albums, but he has no masterpiece. In fact, Chris Brown has become so lazy with his artistry that he now has to compile his albums with over 40 songs. Yeah, that's right, over 40 songs to try to reel in streams. It clearly shows he doesn't even care about having a substantive body of work. Chris Brown is a hitmaker and has some decent albums, but he is far from a Michael Jackson. And even when comparing him to some of his pop R&B peers, he doesn't even rank alongside them in their prime. He doesn't have an album that is as significant as Confessions by Usher, or as solid as 24 Karat Magic or Unorthodox Jukebox by Bruno Mars, and that's solely based upon his albums and music. Some people like to comment on his showmanship and say he's the best entertainer of our generation. When talking about his showmanship, they particularly like to draw the comparison with Beyoncé, and it's just not a good comparison at all. Beyoncé is a great singer, great dancer, and has made good albums her entire career, and has been recently stepping into the light of making culturally significant masterpieces, like her self-titled album or 2016's Lemonade, and she has given some of the best performances of the past decade. Just to be compared to Chris Brown is insulting to her work, because he's simply not touching a thing she does. And the most hilarious thing about the discussion of his showmanship when being compared to Beyoncé is that his fans use him doing backflips on stage as a point of validation for great showmanship. Yes, you heard me right, backflips. They seem to think backflips are some groundbreaking dance move that actually equate to being a great dancer and being a great entertainer, when I can show you the difference in their dancing skills and stage presence, and it looks something like this. Your eyes are not fooling you, and I think that about wraps up the conversation. Chris Brown is talented, he does make some nice songs sometimes, but he is far from a Michael Jackson, and even farther from a Beyoncé.